I got electrocuted. I'm just going to start there. I got electrocuted. And I don't know if you've ever been down this road with electricity, but it's a violent force, man. It's like Poseidon just kind of just finger banged your butt. That's how I felt. I'm going to tell you guys what happened. I hadn't been electrocuted in a long time. And you forget what it's like. You forget the power of it. Well, first I'll tell you about the first time I got electrocuted. I was young. I was a boy, and I was a young boy, and I grew up near a fairground, and a fairground is a place where the fair comes, and they have animals there when the fair isn't there, and people show animals and stuff like that, 4-H people. And it was a big field, and once a year, the fair would come, and it was not far from our home where we lived at. So me and some of the other boys from the neighborhood, my friend Clark, would go over there, and before the fair would open up for the public, they had a day where they would let us ride the rides, and they charged us maybe a quarter, I think, or 50 cents, and to get in, and you could ride as much as you want as the rides were being put up and functioning. And in hindsight, I think they were kind of just experimenting with us, but we didn't see that. We just saw it as a deal, because to get a regular wristband for the big fair day, it was about $8. And we didn't usually have that money, so we would go the day prior, and we'd get out there. And they had a lot of, miscreants and ne'er-do-wells out there, and, men that were running from the law, and women that kind of looked like lesbians, but that probably weren't lesbians, non-practicing lesbians maybe. And we'd get on the rides. And I got on a ride, and my buddy Clark was this kind of odd boy. He'd had some issues. He hated sound. He hated sounds. He hated all just sounds, man. So he would often, wear something extra on his head to kind of keep the sound out of him. He just, I don't know why he was like that. Everybody's got their thing, and he just wasn't keen with sounds, and he was more, you whispered around him. He was just he was gentle when it came to the airwaves. And so he'd often have an extra hat on, or, some couple of muffs on his ears, or he'd have his head kind of wrapped up in something, wrap an extra cloth or something around his head to keep things quiet around him. But we'd get onto the rides, and it was pretty good, some of them, it was the first run. Some of the cages would have, birds would have nested in some of the different pivots and joints of the rides, like the zipper and the tilt-a-whirl, the gravitron. I remember the gravitron as well. I'll tell you a story about that in a second. But so I was getting off of something. I think it might have been the tilt-a-whirl. And it was one of those rides where when you get off the back, you can hear a generator kind of really just rumbling. You can hear a generator really rumbling. And I'm getting off, and I was holding onto the rail, and then I held another rail. And at that point, I completed some type of a circuit, some sort of loose energy that wasn't being used by the ride. And it started using me. And I remember just like my neck got real straight, and everything I knew just felt alert. And I remember this man was like a tall black man, and everybody was tall to me because I was a child, but he could have been a basic heighted black man. He was like, "You got to get off the ride, boy." And I was like, "I can't let go," And he thought that I was, taking issue with him, or that I was, just being kind of just a little cunt, And so he put his foot on my back and basically just kicked me off the ride. Not kicked me, pushed me with his foot. And there is a difference. Some people are always saying they get kicked, but sometimes you just get pushed with somebody's foot. And thank God he did, dude, because it was kind of rude of him, but thank God he did, because I don't think that I would have survived. But I hadn't been electrocuted since then, since we'd been out there, experimenting on these rides. The Gravitron, I remember they had a man in there who looked like Slash from Guns N' Roses. And that was the one where you went in and you laid against the wall, and then it spun, like you were in the dryer, and it spun, and the board you were leaning against would start to levitate against the wall. Like you were really just on the last cycle of a load of laundry. And at that point, you couldn't move hardly. You couldn't move your neck or anything. You just had to really look just straight forward. And they had a DJ in the middle, a rock and roll man. And he'd be in there playing rock and roll. And I remember this guy had a bit of the pervert in him. And he would kind of show his wiener while we were spinning. And it was weird because I remember we never discussed it. Because you were always, or I personally felt like I was always unsure if I was just spinning so fast that I was like seeing wieners or something, that I was seeing, adult body pieces. But now as I've gotten older, I know what happened, and that man was showing out. And that wasn't right of him to do that. I think he was just being like a party guy. But that was the Gravitron, because you couldn't move. You couldn't look and see if everybody else was seeing the same thing. So you didn't know if everybody saw it, and people, I guess, were maybe scared to talk about it. And then Clark, you didn't discuss things with him that much because he liked to be silent. He liked to just be kind of by himself. But anyhow, that was the first time I got electrocuted when I was young. And then until now, I'm okay. I want to say that. I had a lot of well wishes, people reaching out, checking in on me. Somebody asked how many volts it was. And I'm going to answer that. I don't know, bruh. I don't know if that's what you at. Like, I'm not like a tachometer or whatever. I don't know. I'm not trying to set a fucking record, dude. I got electrocuted by electricity. And I'll tell you what happened. I had a comedy set on Melrose Avenue in West Hollywood. And afterwards, I was walking a few blocks, and they had a food truck. And I don't like food trucks, man. It's all, for people out, everybody in LA and all these cities are like, oh, food trucks. But then they'll they'll make fun of people who were picking up animals on the side of the road, like the area where I'm from. And they're like, those people are fucked up, like some hillbilly grilling something in the back of his truck, But you're eating out of a fucking truck, dude. I've never eaten sushi out of a truck, like some kind of damn creep, like some kind of just damn fucking calorie lurker, So I don't like food trucks because I don't like to eat when somebody's cooking something right next to the gasoline. I mean, the gasoline in a truck is 8 feet from the fucking griddle. I don't eat around that shit. So anyway, I've had a personal issue, I guess, and I'm sorry if I'm a little fired up, dude. I mean, I didn't expect this, and it's just been a long few days. So anyhow, I saw this food truck that was selling lobster rolls, which I don't give a fuck about those either, dude, to be honest. And so though I was being myself, and they're selling lobster rolls, and I thought they were out of jurisdiction. I didn't know that food trucks were allowed to operate on this certain avenue out here in West Hollywood. So, being a nosy SOB, I wander over because I'm thinking that these people need to know my point of view, like, oh, you guys are selling crab or, seafood out of a proper jurisdiction, really. And in hindsight, that was my fault. I should have minded my own business. And kind of around the back of the food truck, they had this, you ever seen like one of those electric things on the wall, like just something, an outlet? They had a huge one of those on the ground. And I just kind of wasn't paying attention. And like a huge one, like I don't know if you've ever seen like I think there's a movie, maybe it could be Home Alone, where the boy is dancing on one of those pianos that's on the floor, like with the big keys. They have it at FAO Schwartz. They have it at a fancy toy store in New York City, where you can step on the keys and make the sounds, and they're like $3,000. Rich kids have them, I guess. And it was like that, man. It was that big. It was that big of an outlet, just a big outlet. And it had a bunch of cables coming out of it, and I stepped on it, and it felt like I kind of got straight, and then I just got literally crumpled to the ground, almost like if you've ever seen like one of those videos where they pour some type of liquid over a Coke can or something, and it just crumbles. That was me, man. I was like kind of crumbling, but one of my legs was staying kind of straight, and I was scared, dude. It felt like the devil was just grabbing me down, and I didn't know what was going on. And I realized that I was in unsafe territory, and thank God it just didn't last for too long. It was probably 2 or 3 seconds, which you don't think is long. I mean, if you're a bull rider, they're supposed to stay on for 8 seconds. That's so, me riding an outlet for 3 seconds isn't a big deal. But when you are unexpectedly start surfing electricity, basically, riding the lightning, it's real, man. It gets real pretty fast. And so I was scared, dude. I didn't know if I was gonna die. For a second, for one of those seconds, I probably thought that I was gonna die. Anyhow, I went home. The next day, I went to the doctor, and I went into the doctor's office, and things got even worse in there. I went into the doctor's office, and he kind of like pushed on my ribs from the front and back and made me like turn to the left and right because there was this sharp pain in my ribs. And they ended up figuring out that there's a muscle in there that got damaged, or it's called an intercostal muscle. And I don't know if maybe the electricity kind of, all met up right there in my body. But it hurt, man. And this guy was like squeezing on it. It made it hurt even more. I lost my breath. I thought I was going to die in the office. I thought I was going to die. He pushed on it, and I couldn't breathe. And he's like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "I can't breathe." And he's like, what happened? And I'm like, he had just done this to me. I had been able to breathe when I was in there before. And I'm like, I feel like, like I'm going to be killed, And so he's like, just take the smallest breaths you can. Anyhow, fast forward, I slowly breathed myself back to neutral. They laid me down for a while. They gave me a Toradol shot in my butt to get some of the muscles to relax and for a little bit of relief. And then the dude says, I suggest you don't sleep alone, and I'm not sleeping with anybody right now. I'm bedding up by myself. I don't even have a cat or anything. So I'm thinking, well, now I got to find some fucking Muppet to bed up with me, like I don't want, and then I'm torn because it's like, well, what if I get some type of fucking, some straight up fucking, just animal, some female, just some girl that's out in the grind squad. I don't want some last minute chick laying up in my bed. Because then what if I die? What if I die in my sleep? Then everybody's like, well, he's fucking sleeping with this chick. And maybe that's a silly thought. My brain started racing and I got very scared. So anyhow, I've been recovering from electricity, man. The dude's like, find somebody to sleep with. And I just braved it out and slept alone. And here I am, man. I got electrocuted, but I'm still alive and I'm living to tell about it. And I'm happy you guys are here for this past weekend. Hope you enjoyed that video, and you can watch another. And you can watch this one, you can watch this one. Different options, different choices. Some guy just brings you one option, not this guy. Two options. Watch one, this one or this one.